Welcome to the Pet Loss Companion. I'm Dolan-Del Vecchio. I'm here with my friend and co-author, Nancy Saxton-Lopez. And this is a program that we do live every Thursday from 6 p.m. Eastern to about 6:30. And we are recording this program because I'll be traveling. And generally, we have the opportunity to have a dialogue with participants. And so today we are going to be reading a story, but we won't be able to have comments live. This program is an expansion of the work that we compiled into a book called The Pet Loss Companion: Healing Advice from Family Therapists. And so the book is available on Amazon, and this program allows us to have a more current reach to people who are going through their loss experience. And one of the things that we do, and we're going to be doing it today, is we read letters from people who have written to us about their experience with their animal, their experience of loss, where they are in the grieving process. And if you would like to reach us, we would be happy to receive your correspondence as well. You can reach me at kenddv@gmail.com and Nancy at nsaxtonlopez at csmpc.com. And when you write to us, let us know if it's okay to share what you've written on our program. And if not, that's okay too. One or both of us will respond to you. But it helps other people a lot when you share. I'm going to run through all of this content that is part of the description, and you can find this attached to the program wherever you may be seeing or listening to a replay. In addition to sending us your correspondence, you can read correspondence from others on our Substack, and it's actually a way that we get some financial support as well, because it's a little bit of a subscriber fee for that. And the Substack lists or shows our correspondence with the people who have written to us, and also the photos that they send us. And sometimes the correspondence is just a couple of notes, and sometimes it's pretty extensive. You can support our work through a Venmo contribution or PayPal. And this program is a friend of Dakin Humane Society, which is located in Springfield, Massachusetts. Dakin does many great things in addition to being a shelter and adoption center. One of the resources that they offer is a pet loss support group that I facilitate once a month on the second Tuesday of the month from 6 p.m. Eastern to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. It's over Zoom. It's open to you, cost-free. And there's an RSVP link in the description. And people join from all over the world.
All over the world.
We just had the meeting a couple days ago, and there were people from across the United States, from Australia, from the Netherlands, and Canada. And it's just an interesting mix. If you do RSVP and you decide afterwards that you cannot join us, please send me a note and we'll reopen the registration, because we cap the registration. We actually cap it at 50, and usually about 35 people were with us a couple days ago. Sometimes it's less than that. And we just don't want it to be such an unwieldy amount of people. And so let us know if you RSVP and then you cannot join, and we'll reopen the registration. Please consider subscribing on YouTube and or leaving a comment, leaving a thumbs up, because that's a way that others it'll make it easier, given the YouTube algorithm, for others to find the program. And finally, we'd like you to know that we have an affiliation with a company called Bereave. Bereave makes these really nicely crafted granite plaques that are a great way to memorialize your beloved animal companion. And when you purchase a plaque from Bereave, through the link on our program, and only through the link on our program, we receive a little bit of a kickback from them as well. So it's another way that you can support us while also getting this really nice memorial plaque. And Nancy is
Yes, I
showing
have Bailey.
the example that
It's
we
really
received.
nice and heavy.
It is. It's very substantial. We wanted to make sure that we knew what we were partnering them on, and it is a really nice thing that you would receive. So Nancy, want to get us started?
Yes, we're going to talk on about the story that Martina wrote us about her beautiful Rex.
And here's Rex.
Such a sweetie. What a beautiful little boy. Um, and she starts, the title is He Was My Everything. Hello, Nancy. Hello, Ken. I came across your podcast about half a year after we lost our Wheaton Terrier baby Rex. Tomorrow, November 29th, is his first anniversary, and I would like to honor him by sharing his story. My husband and I got Rex from a breeder near Vancouver, British Columbia. I still remember the night before we picked him up. Our apartment was warm and we prepared um, let's see, my husband, I still remember the night before we picked him up. Our apartment was warm and we prepared his little puppy pen, food bowls, a duck stuffy, and crate. I desperately wish I could go back in time to relive every single moment of the last 10 years. His parents were absolutely adorable, and as we were sitting with the puppies on the Friday before Thanksgiving, I promised them that I would give him the best life possible. He was the most adorable little puppy, just the fuzziest, cutest little bear, and absolutely perfect for us. He had big, kind, and wise eyes, the most kissable brown button nose, the softest tummy, and big, fluffy paws. He was so little, we had to fill his crate with a pillow so he would not be completely lost in it. My husband grew up with dogs, but I was a new dog parent. Sadly, after 2 days at home, he got really sick. We carefully cooked his food as suggested by the breeder, but he could not seem to keep anything down. This was the beginning of weeks and months of vet visits, administration of medicine, and trial and errors of food preparation to find out what would work for him. At long last, we transitioned him to raw food and his stomach issues stabilized. However, after he was neutered, he had an infection and later in life struggled with allergies. Thankfully, over the years, he grew out of them and his health stabilized. During his first 4 years, I did not work full time. I struggled to find work and keep my mental health stable because of it. However, this gave me the opportunity to house train him, practice his agility tricks that he learned as a pup at puppy school, be with him, care for him, and walk with him. He was my emotional support, and in hindsight, this time seems like the most special gift. He had so many different names. He was our pudding, pumpkin, peanut, lover, halibut, owl boy, etc. I often turn these names into silly little songs for him. My favorite name for him was My Everything. I like to picture him in our sunny Vancouver apartment, sleeping on the couch, watching me cook in the kitchen from our patio, or drinking coffee in the morning holding his paw. Another favorite memory is my husband coming home from work. Rex knew when it was time for Daddy to come home. He would sit on our sofa looking down into our back alley, waiting for my husband to come around the corner on his bike. As soon as he heard the sound of his bike braking, he literally flew off the sofa, tail wagging like crazy, and running to the apartment door. My husband would lie down on the floor and let Rex cover his face in kisses. Daddy home time was just the best. This welcome ceremony could last easily for up to 30 minutes. So the years went by, and I appreciated every moment I had with him. He was just so precious. Living in the West End of Vancouver by the water and close to Stanley Park was perfect for dog walking. He enjoyed rolling around in the grass, sniffing all the corners of our beautiful neighborhood, and walking or people watching on the seawall. Sadly, this urban environment also came with many stressors for him and us. He was reactive towards all other dogs, even when they were a block away. Our garage gate, car doors slamming, the elevator door, skateboards, and most people in and outside of our building. Many walks were not only stressful, but also hugely anxiety provoking, as I was constantly fearful of keeping him safe. It was my worst nightmare that we would lose him over an incident that might occur due to his reactivity. We worked with dog trainers on several occasions, which deepened our bond with him and which he enjoyed. Unfortunately, this nightmare never became true. He loved camping, driving, and people watching. He would squeeze himself under our table in our camper van and fall asleep, often before his last walk of the day, and even stay there when my husband and I built the bed right over him. In the night, he would loudly crawl out on his elbows, kind of army style, from underneath the table and hop into bed with us. Our most memorable road trip was from Vancouver, British Columbia to San Francisco. For about 2 weeks, he sat on my lap and I held him while we were driving. He ate chicken in a restaurant in Carmel. He paddle boarded in Hood River, Oregon, and he played on the dog playground on a campsite near Leavenworth, Washington. I would often wake up and find him with his head up and awake. Then, when I made coffee, he would fall asleep. It was as if he was watching over us while we were sleeping, and when we were awake, it was his time to fall asleep. He also loved our British Columbia skiing road trips in the winter. He loved rolling around in the snow, freezing cold walks, staying in different hotels, and waking up in different places. He loved everything. He was our only baby. He was always there. He did our life with us. I started working full time in 2016. Then I often felt guilty for leaving him alone. But in 2020, when the pandemic hit and our social life came to a halt, we were given more time with him. He was living his best life. In the summer of 2020, we moved to Squamish, I think, British Columbia. We were excited to have a large yard for him, a house with carpet for better Zoomy traction, fewer urban distractions, and all the stressors that came with living in our apartment building. He loved the freedom of having a yard and exploring different forest trails. All of a sudden, he was the trail boss, and our walks were a lot more enjoyable.
We lowered our bed so he could hop in and out as he pleased. He loved unrestricted access to our bed. In the evenings, when we switched off the TV, he would get up and just go to bed. By the time we got there, he was already asleep, and my husband spent many evenings carrying him outside like a sleepy baby for his final walk of the day. Before our move to Squamish, our Vancouver dog walker commented on him really slowing down and even refusing to join her on walks. He had also grown a mass on his back. It turned out that he had a tooth infection. We found a lovely vet and had the mass and the infected tooth removed. He recovered very quickly and was his usual happy-go-lucky self again soon after the operation. However, it was the first time that I began to seriously worry about how much time we would have left with him. 1 year later, when I came back from visiting my parents in Europe, I noticed that his greeting me seemed to be just a little less enthusiastic than usual. However, it was as if I noticed it, and at the same time I didn't notice it. He appeared just a little lethargic, but I just thought it was due to the hot weather. On Remembrance Day weekend, I ended up getting sick, and he sat with me while I was resting. Throughout this time, I noticed some other minor behavioral changes. He panted at night, he didn't snore anymore, and occasionally asked to go outside in the middle of the night, something which he did only when he was sick. He had been to the vet during this time for some flea and joint medication. He randomly yelped one evening, and the vet suspected joint pain due to his age. I was wondering if it was the medication that he didn't tolerate well. The following weekend, when my husband had gone away for the weekend, he began to approach the Rainbow Bridge. The sun was shining, and I was sitting in bed with my coffee, looking forward to a weekend with my boy. Suddenly he got up and threw up with the most heart-wrenching, retching sound. The way he threw up, I knew instantly that something was seriously wrong. I took him to the vet, where he was diagnosed with pancreatitis. He was sent home, however. It became evident very quickly that he could just not keep his food down anymore. I was very worried, but the thought of him dying did not really cross my mind. He was only 10. My husband returned on Monday, and we were fortunate that we had his few last days together. It would have been unthinkable that Rex would have died while my husband was away. He spent his final 3 days at the vet, where he was hydrated and where his pain was managed. He was home in the evenings and throughout the night. His spirit was bright, and overall he appeared his usual self. After day 3 of ongoing stomach issues, the vet suggested an x-ray, which led to an emergency surgery where he had discovered a mass. It turned out Rex had a tumor which could not be removed, so we decided to let him rest and not wake him from the surgery. It absolutely breaks my heart to think that he died hungry, that he had his last meal on Friday and went without food until Wednesday. His beautiful muzzle was sticky from the vomit, and I wanted to wait with a bath until he was better. He loved being clean and always had big zoomies after a bath. It absolutely breaks my heart to think he died not feeling clean. From attending your Zoom meetings and listening to your podcast, I know that in those last few days, you can only do what you can do, and you only know what you know at this moment. Everything happened so quickly. I have so much guilt around just dumping him at the vet and walking out on him, not being there with him when he was given his final injection, and going to work on his last day on earth instead of hugging him. Got to get the next page. All I had was the opportunity to say a quick goodbye when I rushed from work to the vet to discuss the emergency operation. I will never forget how he looked at the exit door at the clinic, wanting to go home, and then the look on his face when my husband and I walked out. The only comfort is knowing that he was excited to see our vet and his lovely team. He was very well cared for. My husband said he walked in that morning like he owned the place, wagging his tail. The days that followed are a complete blur and too painful to describe. I wish I had known of your podcast, Zoom, and book then. I looked online for pet loss groups, but I couldn't find anything. Anyway, I'm grateful that I found it when I did. It is a huge support. For his anniversary tomorrow, I invited some work friends with their dogs. It was a day that I dreaded, but I'm now almost looking forward to it because it will be a day dedicated to him. I will imagine him playing along with the dogs in the yard before we walk to the little creek where we scattered his ashes on Boxing Day last year. I will also drop off some chocolates and a card at the vet's office, and I'm planning my memorial tattoo. It will say, "Always there." Show a little dog paw and be surrounded by 3 cherry blossoms, one for me, him, and my husband. The cherry blossoms are a reminder of our time in Vancouver. He is resting at a beautiful spot, a creek at the entrance to a trail network where many dogs walk by. He loved drinking from this creek and walking through it. I often go there just listening deeply, talking to him and thanking nature that she is looking after him. I even encountered a beautiful owl and a salmon there. They remind me that he's always there. Thank you for sharing his story and all that you do, Martina.
I love the yearly memorials,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
mean, that is they having friends and his friends over, and to go to the vet and thank them again
That's
with some chocolates, and her tattoo. I wonder if Martina has gotten that yet. I
yeah.
mean, that's such a wonderful paragraph to
It,
memorialize him,
yeah.
right?
And it's interesting. She says it was a day that she dreaded. And that's the way these things
Yeah,
work. The emotions are so complex. You said something like, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. She set up with
yeah,
having friends come over with their dogs, and she had it planned what they were going to do. And it was really beautiful. But at the same time, she dreaded it. And that's the
yeah.
complexity
Of grief.
of grief and memorials, and it's really beautiful and powerful and challenging all at the same time.
Yeah. I also love what she said, that you do what you can, what you know, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then because all of a sudden now, after, Rex died, and they let him go after the surgery, I guess, or through that surgery. And she's like, I wasn't there for him. I didn't have a last day with him. And she had all of these guilt-ridden feelings, and yet she's right. She wouldn't have known. You don't
no,
know.
no. And then we just find ways to batter ourselves about all the ways that we didn't have control over death.
Yeah,
It's just it just is so common, and but it's important. It's very important to articulate it because then you can take a look at it.
Yeah.
You can put it in perspective, and so the few people escape some
Kind
kind
of
of
guilt.
guilt. Yeah, some degree of guilt. It's very much comes with the territory of loving an animal companion and then losing them. And of course, it's very complicated. The anxiety at the time when
Yeah.
your animal is in crisis and you're told that they're not going to survive this,
Right.
and you decide to let them go, and then you're like, I don't know, should I have done that? And
Every time.
of course, it's the right thing
Yeah.
for her and her husband to have done. I mean, they did that out of love, but
Right.
they didn't escape the what ifs and the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and why didn't I, and all of that. And we hear this all the time, and it sounds like they're dealing with that in a really constructive, like it's
No,
not
yeah, right.
overwhelming for them.
No, they're understanding it, but they still have feelings
Yeah,
about it, obviously.
yeah.
And sometimes I mean, I was not around when my Tashi died, and I wasn't around when my Molly died. And I think that I still think about that. I'm not overwhelmed with it,
Right,
obviously,
right.
but I do think that I wish I had been there.
Yep.
You know,
Same with my Jack. We were in
yeah,
Barcelona when he died, and but you you do the best you can.
yeah. That's all you
You
can do with
and
what you have and what you know at the time.
what you know at the time, and there are many. What we're always confronted with these stories is the limit of our control. The
Yeah,
limit of our control when it comes to issues of health and life and death. We love to feel like we've got a lot of control and we can take responsibility, and
hmm
we do, but these end of life matters are largely out of our control.
right,
And it's just very hard because we want to do everything to make our animals'
possible.
lives. I've said this before, but our Jack was he was a very sensitive soul. He was easily frightened, and he was just the sweetest little
Oh,
dog.
I remember
He
Jack.
was the sweetest little dog, and I used to say to him, because I knew he had congestive heart failure, and I knew
Mhm.
that he wasn't going to live all that much longer. And I just felt like it was so much a part of my relationship with him to be protective. Like I wanted to
Yeah,
protect Jack, and I realized that I couldn't protect him from
right.
dying, and it was just such a sad thing because he was the most loving, sweet little person in
Mhm.
dog form.
Yes, I know. We call them our,
and
our children.
and then to have him die when we were
I
away,
know.
it's just. But again, like there's nothing you can do about it. These things happen.
Yeah. And it's hard with the feelings, trying to work that out because you can't. If you, the anxiety, the fear, the breathlessness in the context of not knowing what to do,
Hmm.
but trying to make a decision and being depressed and being and sad and yearning and all of this stuff. It's just, but that's what happens to us.
That's the and just it's
And
just
it just
life.
happens to us because these are such important relationships.
And one of the things that there's a little bit of this in Martina's story, but many times we're so anxious,
Hmm
we are fraught when we're
hmm
confronted with the
A
fact that it
decision.
sounds like our animal's dying, and what should
Right.
we do? And so we make a decision which is informed as best we can at the time. But
Right.
then when it's over and we're no longer as fraught with anxiety,
Then we're like, what
then
happened?
we're
What did
all
I
over
do?
ourselves with
Right.
why didn't I think this through? Why didn't I think?
Right.
And the reality is you did the best you could,
Right.
and you used the guidance that you had. But it's sometimes so hard to just be gentle
With
with
ourselves.
ourselves because
We beat ourselves up.
because now we're thinking, well, there's if I were a perfect person, I would have.
Yeah, right. I would have done something
I
different.
knew everything. If I was omniscient, I would have. And why weren't you?
I know. We do all do it.
So, anyway, we want to thank
Yes,
Martina
Martina.
very much. And yeah, I just want to show these. She sent these, she sent, of course, the picture of Rex here, but then these really beautiful
Oh, yeah.
pictures of sunset, which are
Oh, how beautiful.
so evocative of
Yeah.
love and
Yep.
loss. And it's just really, thank you. These are really beautiful
Beautiful
pictures. Yeah.
pictures. Yeah, he was a
So,
good boy.
so Nancy, we'll say goodbye again, and look forward to talking with you again next week. And also, we just want to remind people, if you find this program helpful, please give a thumbs up, maybe leave a
Yeah.
comment. And if you haven't subscribed, it would be great if you could subscribe, because all those things make it so that the
Yeah.
algorithm shows the program to other people who are looking for grief support. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Take care.